Good afternoon, everyone. As usual, I'm just gonna give a couple of seconds to allow you guys to come in before we start the business of the day. How is the day going? This is noon. Hope each and every one of you is making judicious use of the day. Okay, I think I will just take it up from here, even as people keep joining us. Good afternoon once again. For those of you guys that are joining us for the first time, my name is Gagba Esihaya, and I'm the training coordinator with the Temple Small Business Development Center. The Temple Small Business Development Center helps small business start and grow. We offer free one-on-one consulting and a variety of low to no cost webinars. We are part of the nationally accredited network of the Small Business Development Center, which has over 1,000 networks across the United States. You are here this afternoon for a webinar on website planning series, what you should put on your website. A copy of the PowerPoint and the link to the recording will be sent to all the attendees. Being a webinar, all the attendees have been muted. However, we always encourage you guys to drop your question on the Q&A or the chat box. Today is indeed a good day. Without further ado, I have my wonderful speaker, Jenny. You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Garba, and thank you so much, everyone, for attending today. I'll go ahead and share my screen, and we can dive right in. Oh, that's not helpful. That's my desktop. Okay. So you're here because you're getting started with a website, or maybe you have one already and you are not quite sure what to do with it. Maybe you've got content written, but you're not sure if it flows. Maybe you're not sure what to write at all, and you're sitting there with that empty website and that blank canvas syndrome. Either way, we're going to talk through what makes sense to put on a website and how to lay out the questions that you're going to have. I am Jenn Wells. I'm the co-founder and marketing director of BrandSwan. I also help out with things like the messaging for the websites for our clients. In addition to that, I am a reformed perfectionist, obsessed with efficiency, templates, processes, systems, and I am a parent of 2, dog owner, compulsive reader. I have consultations available. So if we finish this presentation and you're like, oh, I really just want to pick someone's brain for an hour, feel free to schedule with me or with my partner. We'd be more than happy to get you started and off to set up your own website. BrandSwan was founded by me and my partner, Jane Clark. There's the 2 of us. We have a team of about 8. And we help you break away from the flock through beautiful brands, savvy websites, and marketing that matters. So enough about us. Let's go ahead and dive right into the topic for today. Rather than start talking about website content right away, I think the place to start is by really thinking about the big picture. So what's the purpose of a website? Why are people going there, right? Websites used to be like a little online sales brochure. They were really static. They didn't do a whole lot for you. It was just a way to reiterate your prices. That is not true anymore. Now websites do so much more. They can lead people through to set up calls, right? They can send inquiries through your forms. They can purchase things directly. So depending on what type of business you're in, your website could do all kinds of different things when it comes to getting you leads or clients. So here's just a few of the things that your website should accomplish regardless of what industry you're in. It should answer your target audience's questions, problems, or address their goal. So if you have a business, you've got a target audience, right? You have people who you want to attract to come to you for a specific purpose. And those people have questions, right? Not just about why should I work with you, but about what it is that you do, how this is going to help me, what does the process look like? These are all different things that they're wondering. And if you're not hitting those points, they're going to leave your website and think, I'm not sure if this is right for me, because they don't know if it's going to address their needs or not. It also, in addition to showing exactly what they're going to get out of it, you want to make sure they understand that you understand what they need and are looking for, because nobody wants to work with someone who's not going to be sympathetic to their situation and their needs. Potential obstacles to conversion. So maybe they already know that they need this thing. They know that they want to work with you, but whatever that is, whatever that thing is that might prevent them from completing the sale, buying the product, hiring your services. That's something that you'll want to make sure you address. So maybe you know that your price point is a little high for your industry. So you need to make sure you address why your service is a luxury, why it costs more than your competitors. Maybe it's something else. Maybe they're worried about time. Maybe it's a trust issue. All of those things you can address either by focusing on like certifications, reviews, social proof, or, you know, if it's products, then just the quality of the product, lots of pictures of it so that they can see, you know, that it's legit and it's not just like a grainy picture and it might be cheap and not good quality. So those are all things to think about when it comes to getting over those hurdles that prevent people from buying. Highlighting your key differentiators. So you're not the only solution for them unless, you know, you have a truly unique, innovative solution. For the most part, we all have competitors. And when someone's doing their research to solve whatever their problem is, they're looking at you, they're looking at people that are similar, they're looking at everyone on the first page of Google, right? Or maybe they posted on Facebook and they ask their friends for recommendations and they're researching them side by side. So you want to make sure that you highlight what makes you different, why working with you might be, maybe it's more fun, maybe it's more efficient, maybe your, you know, service is better for XYZ reason. Whatever that is, you want to mention it on your website. And then this might sound obvious, but it's one of the mistakes I see repeated the most often on people's websites. They don't have a clear call to action. So, okay, I've read through all your stuff. I loved it. I want to work with you. How do I get started? What do I do next? What are the next steps? So that's something you want to lay out very clearly. And it's not just having a contact page that I click over to and then it's like, okay, I sent a form, but I don't really know how long it's going to take for you to get back to me. No, it's the next step will be a consultation, right? Fill out this form and we'll get back to you within 24 hours. Like you need to get really specific about what's going to happen when they submit that form or what that next step is. And we'll get into more details about that. So if you're thinking about, you know, oh gosh, I don't even know who my audience is, that's okay. It's still, there's still time to map that out as well. When you're thinking about your audience, there's a few different things to think about. So when you look at typical, you know, target audience worksheets, they usually start with the demographics. I don't focus as heavily on this, but this is things like location, maybe gender, maybe age, and a lot of the stuff can help with the targeting. If you're doing ads, visual tone, style. What I like to focus on more is their challenges or goals, depending what it is. And this is really going to help with your copy, with your messaging. The obstacles to convert, we mentioned that. So hurdles they need to get over to buy from you, and the questions that they're asking, because this is going to help with your SEO. This is also going to help with your conversions. So if you're working, you know, retail, this might not apply to you because it's a beautiful product. Either they want it or they don't, right? There's not a lot of like deep consideration needed here. But for consultants especially, this is the kind of thing that you want to think about. Or, you know, in our line of work, web design, SEO, there's a lot of things that, you know, people are asking questions. And so we make sure that our website answers those questions and we write blog posts to address those questions because that brings people into us through Google search, whatever search engine they're using. They type their question in, we have a blog post that answers it, it comes up on the first or second page. So that's SEO, that's how that works for you. And just to make clear, SEO, search engine optimization. So you're like, okay, I have a rough idea who my target audience is. Oh, actually, I should go back a step. We do have a free worksheet for this. So if you're not sure where to get started with your target audience, you can go to our website, you can download this. The links are in the slides will be sent out to you. So that can be a good guide to get started figuring out who your target audience is if you don't have a clear picture already. Okay, so say we've got them mapped out. We know who we're trying to target. This is how you figure out what the pages of your website are even going to be. You know, because a lot of times people are like, okay, well, about page, service page, this page, that page. But ideally, each page of your website has an overall purpose, right? So this is kind of like writing a research paper where you're separating things into topics. And so each page has one overarching purpose. So if you say you're a consultant and you have 3 main services or 3 main topics, so then you've got a page per consulting service. And that page needs to address all the questions the audience has about that service. Your about page addresses all the questions they have about you, the company or the freelancer or the whatever. And then the homepage typically serves as almost like a sitemap, right? So they get to your homepage first, probably, it usually has the best SEO, it comes up in search first. They get to the homepage, and the homepage is a helpful guide that says, hey, what kind of information are you interested in? Go to the about page, go to this service page, go over here. So homepages can be really tricky because you're like, well, what really goes on here? But it doesn't have to be, because typically what you're doing is you're taking little segments of content from the other pages and you're using that to flesh that out. So it could almost be easier to start with the other pages first and then come back to the home page. So anyway, so you break down each page by its purpose, and then on each page, you determine the questions your audience will have when they reach that page, right? So on the about page, what do people want to know about us before they work with us? This is different for every business, but I can tell you in general, people typically want to know the history of the company just to make sure you're a legitimate company, right? People love working with small businesses. They love working with family-owned businesses. So any kind of like little personal tidbits you can give without going way over into oversharing land. And then a lot of times they want to know your values. And this is true more and more. I think this is a growing desire that people have. And so you don't have to map out every, opinion you've had, especially when it comes to politics, but just letting people know if there are any core values in your business. Maybe it's ethical business practices. Maybe it's making sure that people can always return a product if they're not satisfied, right? A guarantee. Anything that you have that can give them a little bit of insight into the company that they're working with and make them feel a connection to you, or that they're supporting a company that is ethical or kind or valuable, that makes them want to work with you. Once you have the questions mapped out, then you break that page up into sections. And if you're having trouble visualizing this, I'm going to show some examples. And each section, like a research paper, is going to be based around one topic. So say that about page, right? We're going to start with your mission statement. So that's going to be the values section. So you talk about your mission, then you go into the history section. And so when you're breaking them up on the page, it's not just one massive stream of paragraphs, it's some kind of design with that first chunk of text. And then you come down, you have another header, you have another little chunk of text. You never want to have too much content in one place, because people are not reading, they're skimming through really quickly. So that's why the sections are really important, because you want to keep it short, you want to keep it scannable. And then once you have everything addressed on that page, you want to go back through your copy, you want to trim, you want to keep it short as possible. If there's anything that can be broken into bullets or add cute little icons to separate it, you want to do that, because you want people to be able to give you their 20 seconds or whatever their attention span is, and then then decide or get sucked further in and want to keep going. So this right here is kind of the sample page formula for like a service page. And so we start with the promise, and that's like a quick snapshot of the value they're going to get out of it, right? If you were giving someone your elevator pitch and you had 30 seconds or less, what would you say? That is where you start, right? It's just the boom, it's the hook, it draws them in. Then after that, you want to talk about the problem they're having, their goal, their challenge, whatever it is, to show, okay, I understand, here's where you are now. Then you talk about your solution, here's how we're going to work on that problem for you. And then the outcomes. This is the end result you're going to have. Here's how you're going to feel. It's not just tangible results. It's great if you have metrics, but people make decisions emotionally. So you want to address that emotional outcome as well. You also always want to provide social proof. Who else has used this service? How did they feel about it? Give me the testimonials. If you don't have testimonials, metrics is good too. Ideally both, right? As much as you can give of both is optimal. And then that last one, the call to action. Never forget the call to action. It's okay to repeat that a few times throughout. So maybe you've got the value proposition, the promise right at the top, and then you've got a button right there that says, get started. And then as they're scrolling through, right, there's a couple more places that they can click a button and get started. They don't have to wait till they get to the bottom. Even if that button at the top takes them to the bottom of the page, just a way for them to click through quickly and get there if they are sold on you right away. So don't make them wait till the end. Don't bury it at the bottom. Put it in a couple different places. All right, someone had a question already. For a business consultant, should I have an about me page or an about page or both? So one of the questions we always ask our clients when we're getting started with the website is your business a we or an I? And so if you haven't decided that yet, that's probably the first thing to think about. There's no wrong answer here. Some people want to work with an I, they want to work with an individual human because they know they're going to get, the founder, the owner, the talent of the business, they're going to get that person's dedication. Other people are going to be like, oh, I don't know, it's too small, I'd rather work with an agency, right? So you can do your about page a couple different ways. You can do it as a we, and then you can have it about the founder, or you can do it as, you know, I am the business, here's information about me as, you know, the business owner, but also pretty much the only employee. It's kind of up to you. Let me go ahead and show some examples, and you can see, okay, so that was Regina. Regina says it will grow as I hire. If you're planning on growing already, I would say go ahead and make it a we. Make your website a we, put about the founder for now, and then put your little like, hey, we're hiring, you know, if you're ready for that. And then that way, people can see that your business is getting bigger. And also when you say about the founder, right, or you say leadership, that kind of implies that there's more employees without specifically like naming them or putting fake people on there. So that's the reason that we do it that way. All right, examples. All right, so this website is a digital marketing company. It's actually a client of ours because we do work with people that even would technically be considered competitors. Anyway, this is a great example. This is their homepage. Starts with the promise, right? They're a no-nonsense advertising agency. And then they go into why us. So instead of going into that like problem solution, they're doing their differentiators. So they've got value proposition, their key differentiator, the services. So these are the three main things that they do with links off to view those pages. Then they've got their clients, which is their kind of social proof. But this is also, I like doing this, like say you only do one thing, you don't have a ton of services. I like highlighting who you work with, because then when people come to your site, they say, oh, that's me, right? They see themselves on your page and then they're more sold on it. And so if you have really niched down, you know, say you only work with nonprofits, or say like you have your target audience to a T and you're like, they are female entrepreneurs that are starting a business between this age and this age. Put that on there so that they get there and they know who you're speaking to. Not every business has it niched down that much, and you don't need to. You know, like my company works with small businesses and nonprofits. That's pretty broad. Like we have an industry, but it's not this far down. Anyway, so in this case, they've got their different groups that they work with. They've got more social proof right here. And then this is kind of a secondary call to action. So maybe you're not sold on working with them yet, but you want to read a little bit more about them and get to know them better. So this is their blog, and this is events that they're doing. They do a lot of workshops and talks to help promote themselves. So this is a way to kind of get them into the content funnel and maybe make that sale later if people aren't ready to make the sale when they first come to the website. So that's one reason that I love this example. And this is more blog posts. Okay, are we getting a recording of this webinar? Yes, always recorded, always sent out. All right, another example of the formula in action. So here is that promise right off the bat. Peace of mind for personal finance. Sounds great, right? I don't want to be stressed about money anymore. A little bit more detail, you can get started right away if you want to. If you're not ready to get started, you can keep scrolling through. This addresses their problem, right? This is something that you're struggling with. Here are the different solutions involved. There are a few different audiences going on here. So it doesn't specifically say, hey, you're this type of person, but the copy is written to address that person, right? So this one is for business owners, people, just busy people, basically. This one is written for people with aging parents who are not always able to be there physically to handle their bills, right? And so it's not written to older people themselves, it's written to their caretakers. And so caring for loved ones isn't saying like, oh, your parent is old, but it still addresses who they are without calling it out. So I think this is a good example of addressing their need more than it is naming who they are. And then this one, families in transition, just kind of says who they are. So families that have some type of situation that's stressful, they're struggling, they need someone to help with their finances. A few other services. This is a different category because it's more about legacy services when someone's actually dying. And then once you make it through the services, here's the key differentiators. This is the little like preview of the about page. And if you click learn more, it takes you over to the about page. So why work with this personal finance care company versus a different one? The social proof right here. the resources, like I said, that second chance to get them in the funnel if they're not going to buy from you right away. And then the footer of the website, which more and more we're seeing, and we're building footers that have most of the contact information. So yes, you can still have a contact page, but why not just put it all at the bottom? And then no matter what page they're on, they're going to be able to find your stuff if they're ready to reach out to you. Don't make them find the specific page that has it. Don't hide it, you know? All right, one more example, and then I'm going to answer that question in the chat. All right, this is a recruiting agency. So again, starting off with that promise. This one was a little bit different because they have to sell not just their specific recruiting firm, but they're addressing that obstacle to conversion right away, because they know that there's this reputation around recruiting companies that is, you know, oh, they're expensive to work with, they're going to cut into our profits. People are reluctant to work with them. They always want to try to hire people themselves first, which is fine. And especially for our small businesses, yeah, we're going to hire ourselves. But anyway, so big agencies, right? So it's why work with a recruiting company in the first place. It's not just why this recruiting company, it's getting them to get on board with the idea of a recruiting company at all. And so they know that's a major obstacle to conversion. They put that near the top of the page to address it right off the bat. Then as you come down, this is the value, like what makes us special. A CR process, right? They have their own process page to talk about their value as opposed to other recruiting firms. The services specifically, here's what we actually do. And this is the call to action to get started. The social proof. They have their diversity statement. This is another differentiator. So they've kind of got those sprinkled out through the page. This one, it has a really long homepage because it's a small website. Even though it looks like a few different pages up here, it's really only 3 pages. And then they've got their team. So this is the about us. They don't have an about page, so they had to stick it all in the homepage. And then at the very bottom is their, you know, getting started. So for clients, filling this out, for candidates, do this. So they have 2 main audiences. They have different call to action for each audience, and they make it very clear. Which one of these are you? This is your next step to get started. So that's one reason I love their call to action section. They also have it up at the top. And this was a creative idea for the navigation, because instead of being like clients, you know, candidates, because people might not know which one they are right away, they addressed the thing that those people are going to want to do. So are you hiring employees, or are you looking to get hired, right? And this doesn't always work when people's needs are more complicated, but if you have a small navigation, you can get more creative or more friendly with the terms that you have up here. It doesn't always have to be about services, you know, mission history, whatever. But if you have a big navigation, say you've got 20 pages, then I would say stick with the more boring, obvious names, because you don't want to confuse people. So it just depends how big your website is. Okay, so Kashal asked, as a dentist for my website, do I need to hire a marketing agency for local SEO? Some firms are charging $500 a month. And if I do hire someone to do my SEO, do I need to keep paying for it for years? So interesting question. I will say that $500 a month is not terribly out of the ordinary. So I wouldn't be shocked by that price tag. Someone else has an opinion. I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, so, well, actually, you know what? I'll get to that right now. So Small Biz Philly says you don't start with SEO, you start with paid ads. I actually disagree with that. I think that your website needs to be functional first. So your website needs to have the different, the on-page SEO. So that is your content, your meta descriptions having the right keywords. And then once you have those ads bringing people to you, it's going to be easier to get people to your site because it's set up correctly in the first place. Plus, if you do ads, you're going to get leads while the ads are running, but they're not going to keep coming after that ad ends. Whereas if you spend the effort to put the SEO in place on your website, then that's going to be an ongoing thing. You're not going to have to redo it every month. So no, if you get people to set up your website correctly in the first place, you're not going to have to pay for SEO for months and months and months. And so that's why a lot of places will charge a one-time setup fee. And then they'll, you know, maybe the ongoing stuff is things like writing blogs or creating backlinks or doing extra content. But that initial SEO is just making sure that your website content makes sense the first time. And so for the person sharing Small Biz Philly, I'm not saying you're wrong at all, and we can have differences of opinion, but yeah, so I don't disagree with ads at all, but definitely make sure you get someone who knows what they're doing, because it's very easy to waste money on Google ads. So that's one way to get results right away. If you do organic SEO, that takes a little bit longer, and that's why some people might, do both at the same time, or they might prefer one over the other. I always say get your stuff set up, your foundation set up correctly, and then, start building the extra stuff. But matter of opinion. Okay, I think I addressed that. If I hire someone to do my SEO, do I need to keep paying for a few years? So no. So get your website set up correctly. It should still keep showing up in search. And really at that point, it's just if you want to keep showing up for extra keywords, right? So maybe, your competitors are really at it. They've got a bunch of keywords out there and you want to compete with them. Then maybe you want to keep having new blogs written or keep finding new backlink sources. But if you get your page set up correctly, like Web Design Delaware for us, right? We're still showing up for that. We're not working on our SEO every single month. We just keep it up to date. And then maybe every 6 months, we're like, oh, we're starting to slip on the page. We need to adjust a little bit, or the algorithm has changed. So there's a little bit of maintenance involved, but it's not like a constant battle because it got set up correctly the first time. All right, I have another Google Ads question. I'm not a Google Ads expert, and that's a little bit off topic, but I do know that Temple has other webinars that talk about like SEO and traffic sources. So I would definitely suggest checking those out. All right, I'm gonna get back into content. All right, so now that we've seen those formulas like out in the wild on real websites, I'm gonna show you what the website content questions look like. This is our template, so yours does not have to look like this at all. But this kind of helps us to picture what it's going to look like first to get the structure filled out and then start writing the content for it. So we usually start with a sitemap. We figure out what those pages are going to be, right? And so most websites aren't going to have, when I say most websites, I mean most small business websites do not need this many. I would say a lot of people have this idea that they need 5 pages, right? And just ask yourself, like, why? Why do I need 5 exactly? Instead, think about what are the things you have to talk about. So if it's a retail business, then obviously you need a products page. I do think most businesses need an about page, a home page to showcase all the other pages. And then other than that, what do you truly need? What are people asking for? Maybe it's an FAQs and policies for that retail business. For a consultant, maybe it's the process, right? Like, what am I going to make you do? Here's the questionnaire, then the kickoff call, then the whatever. Or maybe that goes directly on the service page, right? Maybe there's separate services and you want a different page for each one. It really just depends on what you're doing. Once you have the pages mapped out, then you start writing the questions that you think people are going to have when they get to your site. So I'm actually going to start with services because I think that outline is easier. So like I said earlier, problem. What's the problem they're having? How is it negatively impacting them or their organization? This depends on whether you're helping, if you're B2B, business to business, or B2C, business to consumer. So if you're working with corporations, they don't want the emotional talk at the same level, unless you're talking to like the CEOs. But if you're talking to, I don't know, the assistant who's doing the research to find the resources for the engineering team, they're not going to care if you're going to make them feel de-stressed or whatever. They're going to care about ROI and bottom line and how much you're going to save the company. So really thinking about that target audience and whether they're worried about themselves or they're worried about the business. And so that's where, how does it make them feel? Depending on that audience, right? So maybe they're stressed out because they're a business owner or they're a person, right? Maybe you're a life coach and you're helping them to lose weight or find their purpose or whatever that thing is. And I think for small business, a lot of times that emotional talk does help, but the bigger the organization gets, the less this is going to be relevant. Then for the solution, what is it? How does it help them? What makes your solution more effective than other solutions they might choose? And that gets into like the key differentiator. There's a couple different key differentiators because there's what makes your service better than another service. And then there's what makes your organization different. So why do I want to work with you? What's the experience of working with you like? For outcomes, what does that look like, right? If you can paint a picture, if you can really describe it, that's always helpful. If there are specific metrics, and then how will they feel? So again, how will they feel just depends on how far down you're going. If you're working with individual people, if you're working in the coaching space, then yes, it's all about how they feel because they want to feel better. They have a problem and they need to feel better about it. If it's for small businesses, maybe it's about bottom line, maybe it's about a combination. Business owners are stressed, they wear a lot of hats, they do a lot of different things, right? Those are different things that you can address. So after you talk about the different outcomes, you know, with ideally with metrics and with the emotions, because that's how we make decisions, then the call to action. What's next? How do they get started? So that is my typical services page formula. For about page, we're starting with that mission. And again, you can rearrange this to whatever works for you. This is not like set in stone. It's different for every business, but this is what we start with, and then we tailor it to people's industries. So do you have a mission statement? If yes, boom, done. Put that in there. If you don't have a mission statement, what makes you want to help people? Because they care. They want to know what's in it for you. They want to know that they can trust you. So why do you care about them? How are you going to help them? And yes, you know, there's money, but you probably picked your specific industry or your specific business for a reason, because you care about that more than you care about some other money-making avenue. So tell them that. Tell them the emotional connection that makes them feel like they can trust you. Do you have, you know, company or personal values that are relevant to your clients? Maybe that's an ethics statement. Maybe that's a returns policy, you know, whatever that thing might be. We're working with a business right now that is really big on sustainability. So in her case, it's writing about the sustainable measures they have for their packaging that they send out, right? And that's something exciting for her clients because they care about the earth and, you know, not destroying it. Okay, and then if you do have those values, do they change what it's like to work with you? And so if the answer is no, just skip that question. But if the answer is yes, then, you know, like spell it out. People are not going to instantly see it and then know how that affects them. So make sure you're always answering the what's in it for me? Why do I care? Okay, background. How did your organization begin? Even if you're a new business and you just started a year or two, tell them your inspiration story. What sparked the idea to have your business? What, you know, like, why are you doing what you do? You kind of addressed that in the first one, but just basically like, what's the founding story? If you've been in business for a long time, talk about your experience. If you're a new business, talk about, you know, your values or your skills or what you did before that led to you founding this business. So they get that idea that you do have the expertise needed. And then you can talk about your differentiators here. What makes you different from your competitors? What makes you particularly qualified? Once we get there, just a quick overview of the team. Believe it or not, we have found for us and for our clients that the team page always does really well. So there's like the home page, maybe the service pages, and then the team page is often has more traffic than the about page. So people really want to see who they're going to be working with. And if you have any kind of claim, you know, like if your team is really diverse, then especially feature them, because people want to know that and they want to support diverse teams. They want to support minorities and women-owned businesses. And they want that, they want to feel connected to a community. So just show the faces if at all possible, if your team's not, you know, super camera shy. Okay, contact page. You might think this is simple. I just put my address and my phone number. No, a lot of companies do this, and the about page is just kind of like okay, I still don't really know what to do next, even though you provided all your contact information. And that's because I don't know what's going to happen when I fill out that form, right? I don't know if you're going to get back to me in an hour, in a week. I don't know how long that is. And if I don't hear from you in 2 days, I'm going to go find someone else to call or to submit a form to. So if you know that you don't respond as quickly as you know, not as you should, but if you don't respond quickly to your website form, just tell them. Say like, hey, we've got a week backlog and we get back to people as soon as we can with that 7 business days or whatever it is. Hopefully you're responding more quickly than that. But you know, people, even if it's 24 hours, just put it in there, because if people know what to expect, they're more likely to wait, they're more likely to be patient. So setting expectations is the very first thing you can do to make sure that people don't get disappointed. And then if you have multiple contact methods, you can say like, hey, you'll get the quickest response if you call us or if you email us, like whatever your preferred method is. You know, for our business, we are great at answering emails. We're not so good at picking up the phone. And then anything else they should know. Maybe you work remotely, maybe you meet people in coffee shops, maybe you have an office, but it's only open for visits on this day and that day. One of our clients is a jeweler's. They used to have open hours like a normal retail business. Now they do everything by appointment, right? So that definitely needs to be on the website. Otherwise, people are just going to try to walk into the store and they won't be able to. Then for your contact form, just a quick note, for your contact page, it can be contact It could also be if you're a consultant or if you're a service-based business, just make it like a get started page, right? Make it a consultation forum or a discovery call or whatever that first step is to get started. What information do you need to know about them to get started? And if you do that, that's going to discourage all of the casual inquiries that aren't really related to what you're doing. It's going to get more people filling out the form who actually want to do the consulting or whatever the service-based thing is. And so in general, you don't want your contact forms to be too long because the longer it is, the less likely people are to fill it out. But it also prevents you from getting a lot of spam on your form. So think about the pros and cons and think about whether you really want people contacting you for random stuff or if you only want qualified leads to contact you through that form, meaning people who are potentially going to become a client, right? Not just random, you know, for us, here's an example. We charge $1,250 for a logo. That sounds like a lot to a lot of people. A lot of people are like, oh, I wanted a $50 logo on Fiverr. That's great. If you can get a logo that you're happy with for $50, then go get it. But we don't need to have a discovery call for you to find that out about us, right? You can go to our price page on our website, you'll see it right there, and then nobody's time is wasted and nobody's disappointed. So we put all of our stuff out there because we don't want people getting to us unless they're a qualified lead who wants to work with us. And we explain what exactly is included with the logo, what goes into the logo design process so that people understand why this costs so much more than you might get from someone else. And so that's an example of setting those expectations and making sure that the people who come through the website are people that you actually want to work with. Okay, and then general contact information, we saw that in the footer. So going back to that home page, now that you've seen what the other pages could possibly be, the homepage, like I said, it's kind of their sitemap. It's their guide for the rest of the website. So a lot of times we start with the primary, call to action. So you want them to book a discovery call. You want them maybe for a retail store. This is your new featured products, right? This is the main thing you want them to do. And then you put your hook, your tagline, whatever it is that's like the, oh yes, I want that. I'm going to take action right now. It's okay if this doesn't make them take action. It's okay if they keep scrolling because the rest of the page is going to guide them to the different parts of the site where they might want to get more information about you. So this could be the value proposition, or the mission or a little snippet about your business. This is going to lead them off to the about page. So just like a little preview of the business, get more information on our about page. The services overview, so this is just like a quick little preview. And then if they want more detail on those services, if these are separate pages, then it links off to the individual pages. If this is just one page, then it's the, learn more, get started, whatever it is. Testimonials or case studies. We include these on just about every page of the website. So we see clients who sometimes have a testimonials page. And in my opinion, don't make people dig for that. Just put it everywhere, sprinkle it throughout the website. Because people aren't likely to click through a bunch of testimonials in a row. But if you insert them with the rest of your content, then they're getting the message. They're getting like, hey, I have enough testimonials to have different ones on each page. This many people have recommended my services. If you have testimonials specific to the different services you offer, even better. And then we talked about that secondary call to action. Not everyone has this, and that's okay. But if you've got a blog, if you've got free downloads, if you do events, things like that, feature them on the homepage. Make sure people know how to get more information about you, how to stay involved with you. And then you can have a call to action at the bottom, or for us, that's just our footer. Our footer has all the calls to action, and that's at the bottom of every page. So that is it for the formula. Okay, so Karen, another SEO question. What type of company does SEO reviews or assists for a small business? Do these companies do subscriptions like once a year or twice a year reviews instead of monthly? I hate to be unuseful, but I think it just depends. Like there are tons of SEO companies and they all do it a little bit differently. I don't think there's one specific formula that works. So that's actually something that we would do. And most web design companies offer some type of SEO. Well, I shouldn't say most, a lot of web design companies offer some type of SEO services. And so I can tell you what we would do. We could do an audit, and that would just be reviewing your website. And then we give you a big list of changes that need to be made. And then like a price quote for making those changes. That would be a one-time thing. But, absolutely checking in once or twice a year to make sure that you're staying on top of it and you're not losing traction. Because like I said, Google does update their analytics every so often. I think you could get by once a year, honestly, unless you've got. So I'll just say this, for most small businesses, they're not diving that deep into SEO. They're kind of just doing the general best practices. And then you're going to be found on the homepage for maybe it's your service and then your location. So for us, web design Delaware, that's the keyword that we're fighting for. There's a lot of web design companies in Delaware. So we're battling with them to stay on the homepage for that. Or not on the homepage, sorry, on the first page of Google. If that's all you're looking for, that's typically not too challenging to get you on that homepage or on that first page of Google for, again, for your general location. So if you're in a huge state, like if you're in Texas, if you're in New York, if you're in Philadelphia, places that have a ton of businesses, it might be harder. And it might be like, you know, your location is a specific region within the city. You know, like for us, that would be Newark, Delaware instead of Delaware if we're going for that. So trying to compete nationally is a whole different story, and you would have to be much more aggressive with your SEO strategy, and your website would probably have to be bigger. That means more blog posts, that means more pages. And that's something where you might have to work on it in more frequently than you would if you're just competing in a fairly small regional area. So hopefully that answers your question. Different people do it differently. And it depends like how wide your market is that you're competing in. All right. Do I absolutely need Facebook and Instagram accounts for a dental office? No, there's almost never an absolute answer when it comes to marketing. That being said, I think a lot of medical practices don't have much of a social media presence, so it's an opportunity to stand out. And more, when people look to learn more information about a business, they head to social media, and that's their like, yes, this is a legit business, right? So it's up to you. But I will say that having a page that is not active where you never post is probably less good than not having a page at all, because a page like a Facebook page that has no content on it makes me think that business is not in business anymore. Or they're not doing well, right? Like there's different things I might infer from that. So think about whether or not you actually have the time to do the upkeep and to post every so often. Even if your posting schedule is only like a couple times a month, just being consistent with it is more important than posting 20 times one week and then not at all for a couple months, because that's the kind of thing that makes people think like, oh, I don't know if they're legit. I don't know if they're still in business. All right, Wayne says, how many pages do you recommend for a startup business, generally speaking? So this is just a very random number, 3. And I'll tell you why. Homepage. Typically, every website needs that. Some businesses get by with just a single page, and that works for them. They have one landing page. But if you're going to have any real content about your business, that probably needs to be on a separate page. If you have a mission, a history, and a team member to feature, that's a lot to stick in a homepage. So I would say that's a good page to have, is that about page. And then whatever the services. So if it's services or if it's products, that will need a page outside of the homepage as well. So I would say 3 is the minimum. Depending on what industry you're in, you might want, you know, another page for policies or processes, and you might want like a full get started, almost like a sales page for that discovery consultation. So it depends whether or not you need those extra pages or not. But I would say 3 is the minimum that most businesses should have. All right, when you have a freebie for your subscribers, where should you put this on your website besides the homepage? Should you have your freebie funnel subscriber box pop up right away on your website, or have it pop up within so many seconds of being on the page? That is a really fun question. I don't think there's like one single best practice for that, but I will say if you have a website tool that lets you A/B test it and try different things out, I would do that, you know, and just see, do you get more if it pops up later? Do you get more if it pops up right away? I will say, so the Jen as a marketer has a different opinion than Jen as a consumer, because when I'm scrolling through a website, I'd rather close out of the pop-up box right away. But if I'm going to be convinced to take action on the pop-up box, it's probably once I've started going through the website and then it pops up, because now I've decided that I have enough information about the company that I want to stay and I don't want to leave. So I think I just spitballing here would probably try the 3-second delay or the like starting to scroll down delay, depending on what your service offers. But yeah, I mean, try them both. Do 1 month with one option, 1 month with the other, and see where you get more downloads. I am always in favor of getting more information if possible. And I'm actually going to show you our website. Oops, that's not our website. because we do have freebies and we have them in a couple places. So we have this banner here, and that always takes people to whatever current thing is that we're promoting. So right now it's the brand personality quiz. Sometimes we have freebies, sometimes we have interview series or webinars, things like that. And then we also have this resources section. And so this is great. If you just have a blog, put articles, right? But if you have a bunch of different things, if you have events, you have a blog, you have a freebie, go ahead and make it a section in your navigation and then have drop downs that go off to the individual things, whatever they are. So for us, our freebies are the workbooks and guides. And then we have a page that kind of lists them all out. So we've got, well, these aren't freebies, but we've got the paid ones. And then we've got the freebies down here, which is the things that I've been linking in my presentation. So you can see there's a couple different places for us that we have them. And we don't do a pop-up because we personally hate pop-ups, but they work. So I'm not going to say don't do it. They absolutely do work. Okay, more questions. What is the estimated time to complete this content doc? I'd love to get my supervisors to work with me on it, but time is money. Yeah, so one thing I would say, if you're trying to convince other people to do it and there are people that are busy, go through and answer the questions as much as you can yourself before you dive in. And that way you can just get their time on the things that you really can't answer, right? And so maybe, maybe you're great on the services, you know exactly what your company does, you don't need a whole lot of help with that, but you just need a little bit of help with the emotional side of it, or you need help with the mission in the background because you don't know how your company got started. Only the founders know that, right? So I would say go ahead and get started on your own and then ask them for help filling in the things you don't know. As far as estimated time, how quickly do you type, you know? When I am doing content with a client, it usually takes me from 1 to 2 hours to get this filled out and start translating it into website copy. So it really just depends how many pages you have and how quickly people are able to type their answers up. The more people involved in any brainstorming process, the longer it's going to take, because 3 people trying to write a 1-sentence mission statement is going to take a lot longer than 1 person, because you have to consolidate all those ideas into one. So the more people involved, the harder it's going to be, unfortunately. Any program that duplicates updates or posts to both Facebook and websites to minimize duplication time spent? That is an interesting question too. So I guess typically your website content is fairly static. I don't want to say you never change it, but you know, like you write a great homepage, it's doing well with Google. You're not going to change this all the time, right? You're not going to put like your current updates or your posts, but you are going to put that in your blog. So if you don't want to have the same content in 2 places, okay, you're probably not going to like my answer. I think you do need to post them in both places because the format's different, right? On social media, we're writing a short post with a cute little graphic. It's concise. But that being said, we have a blog post here. I'm going to share this blog post to social. So a lot of it is content that's repurposed, and maybe 1 blog post can be 3 social posts because you've got 3 different sections. You've got, actually, I've got one about small businesses that I'll use as an example. Okay. So in this blog post, I talk about small businesses and I talk about how they impact the economy, how they impact their communities, and then why we like small businesses / what it does for individual people. And so each of these sections here, you know, I wouldn't copy and paste this text, but maybe it's that quote, right? Maybe that quote is the graphic for the social media post. And then I talk about this a little bit, and then I say, go get more information on the blog. And then for the next post, we do one of these quotes. We talk about this, go get more information on the blog. Maybe it's not the quote, maybe it's the statistics, right? So this is a way to take that content you've written for the blog, repurpose it so that you don't have to spend a ton of time on each platform and you're reusing what you've done once already. But I wouldn't, like, there's no way to take this whole blog and just post it on Facebook because it's not written for Facebook. So I think ideally you're formatting your content for the platform it's being published on. And so it is going to feel like duplicate time spent, unfortunately. Okay. Oh gosh. Shasta says there are 7 supervisors to get to work together in that meeting. So that's probably going to be painful, and I'm sorry. All right. I've often heard that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Is it recommended to make the website heavily image focused, even for a business consultancy? A lot of the examples you've shown today seem to have more words than images. Yes. And I don't want to say more images than words. Like, you know, if you look at our homepage, so, and we're web designers and we're a branding company, so our website is a little more floofy than other ones might be. But you know, like these are examples of the services. So branding, that's a logo. Websites, that's a website we did. That's marketing that we did. So we're literally showing the service because people are going to skim. They're not going to come here and read this whole paragraph and then read this and then read that and then read this. What they're going to do is they're going to skim and they might see this first because it changes color. Maybe they'll bounce around over here, like typical eye flow for someone. So as they're scrolling down, they might bounce here. They'll probably go to this picture, that picture, that picture. Oh, that's interesting. What is that? Okay, let me read a little more about that. Then they keep scrolling. Okay, there's a picture. And so basically, if the picture or the icon or the whatever it is captures their interest, and the headline, then they'll read more. So think of the pictures and the headlines as the attention grabbers and almost like a page outline for them to look at. And then they might read the content. So it doesn't need to be as, and actually you said a business consultancy. Let me show you a business consultant website that is more text heavy. So this one is Popham Associates, starts with a picture of him, although we are trying to convince him to change that to a picture of his target audience. And then this is a lot of text, but the icons help break it up and they draw your eye to the headline, right? So this is design helping you scan through this page quickly. There's no pictures here, but that headline and that button stand out. So it helps me skim through it and decide if I want to spend time reading the rest of the content. Same thing with this, right? Credentials. Oh, interesting. Let me see more credentials. This is the secondary call to action. Maybe I want to check out this book. So it doesn't have to be all images specifically, but using those headlines strategically helps break up the content. It helps let them decide whether or not they want to dive in further or not. So definitely just don't have a ton of paragraphs. Okay, I actually have just 2 more slides. So let me get back to the presentation real quick. So this is the download for this website content questions, if you want them. The links are in the presentation, or you can go to our website to resources like I showed you. And this one is free. We're actually starting to upcharge for some of our worksheets, but this one is still free. So just skim down to the free section and you'll find it. And then resources and links from the presentation today. So target audience, website content questions, if you want to do a consultation with me. And then we have some content writing tools that we use. So Grammarly is a great one for just making sure that you don't have a bunch of typos, you don't have grammar issues. Grammarly loves the Oxford comma, and so do I. So it's one of my favorites. There's a readability grader, which will check what reading level you're writing at. And so for web, it's recommended to write at grade 5 rating level or below, because people really are just skimming through your content. So if you're writing a thesis, like a PhD, people aren't going to spend the time on it, unfortunately. And then this is an SEO tool if you want to dive into that and make sure that you are writing for the keywords that you want. If you don't know what keywords you want, then you probably need to do that research first. And if you don't know how to pick them, just think about, if you were searching for your website, what would you type into Google or Bing? And whatever that phrase is, that's a good bet that that's a good keyword to use. Okay, and that's it. So let me get back to questions, and then I'm going to have to turn this back over to Garba in just a minute. What is the BrandSwan cost to audit my website? And tell me what needs to be charged. Good question. So our website audits are typically around $1,000. And so that is time for us to dig through your website, to make our list of recommendations. And then that includes up to 5 hours of website edits. So and if your website needs something more extensive, we might pause and we might say, like, before you pay the rest of the amount, let's talk about how big the scope of this is. Or if we can see at a glance that your website really just needs to be redone, then we can talk about pricing that out. We're not going to like lead you down the garden path and then change tactics at the end. But about $1,000 is what we charge when people just need to get their SEO cleaned up. Maybe they need their page content rearranged a little bit. And this is a good example because this was a website audit. and a lot of his content was in the right place, but you know, he needed the icons to help break it up. He had these services and they were all on the same page. Like all that content was on the same page with this one. Oops. Leadership. Yes, they're all leadership, but training, coaching, and consulting. And so just imagine one page with all this stuff on it, right? So we helped him separate it out, break it up. We made 3 separate pages because it's only 3 services. And now it's easy for people to click through, see the key differentiators, get started right away. So that's an example of what an audit might look like when we go through and do stuff. But yeah, I mean, if you have questions, just reach out. My contact information is here in the slides, and I would be more than happy to chat with any of you. Okay, you mentioned an upcharge for which document? None of the ones that I shared in this presentation. These are both free. So if you go to our resources page and you see documents that are paid, those are not the ones I mentioned today. Just scroll right past those. The target audience worksheet is free and the website content questions are free. Okay, I think I'm caught up on questions. So Garba, if you want to tell them about the survey.
Oh yeah, thank you very much, Jenny. Just a quick one to our wonderful attendees. I actually posted it a few minutes ago, but I'll just go ahead and repost it again. Just give me a sec. Yeah, I just posted it for the second time. Remember, we at SPDC, we always cherish your feedbacks, even as it helps us to improve on the services we provide to you guys at the low cost. So kindly take 30 seconds of your time to help us to fill out the survey link I just posted. Jenny, you can continue, please.
All right, so I think we have 4 more minutes if anyone else has questions. Or Garba, I think they might be done.
Okay, Jenny, thank you very much for a wonderful presentation. Before we wrap it up, I just want to use this opportunity to thank each and every one of you guys out there that actually give it a day with us. Thank you, my wonderful speaker. I remember from the onset, I did say today is a good day because I know if it's Jenny, it's always boom. It's always the best. Jenny, thank you for the presentation. I love the way everything flowed. I love the questions that actually came up on board, and everything was just cool. Last but not the least, I want to thank my wonderful SPDC colleagues for their wonderful support and encouragement. Without them, we wouldn't have been here for this webinar to come to pass. I think in the absence of any other thing, thank you guys. Thank you, Jenny. And do enjoy the rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yes, please.